Hello everyone, welcome to another video, and today we are going to talk about auto dispatch settings. Now I'm going to start this video by saying that we highly suggest you don't touch any of the values or change any toggles without first contacting us through Slack or through email, or if you join one of our bi-weekly knowledge calls. So with that being out of the way, we are going to go over some of the settings, what they do, how they affect your business, and how you can adjust them. So basically, the first one is going to be the obvious one. Is auto dispatch even active? So if you're utilizing our auto dispatch service, this will basically just turn it off if you don't want it for whatever reason. At that point. Then we also have restaurant send. This basically allows auto dispatch to automatically send orders to restaurants. If you check that don't send, then the auto dispatch won't do anything until that order is sent to the restaurant. Then we have max distance. This is basically going to be how far out from the restaurant should auto dispatch look for drivers. In this case, we have 5 miles. So this means that in a 5-mile radius from the restaurant, auto dispatch is going to look through the drivers and the candidates for that order and then pick the best one. Then we also have max distance and minimum wanted. Basically, if there is no drivers in a 5-mile radius, how many drivers out should we go and expand our circle? Basically, we highly suggest you leave this at 1, meaning that after 5 miles, the closest driver after 5 miles is going to be selected. If you click 2, it will expand to 2 drivers 5 miles out. So basically the first driver can be 6 miles out, the second driver can be 7 miles out, and then the auto dispatch is going to decide which driver is better for that order. Then we have quick find distance. This is basically going to say, hey, this is very efficient for us to send this order to the driver that's very close, and we can just execute that order right away rather than waiting for another driver that maybe in different circumstances would make more sense. We suggest we just leave this at 2 miles. So basically, if a driver is picking up an order that's close to that restaurant, that's 2 miles away from that restaurant already, they can pick up that order, then maybe pick up this order if the restaurant can prepare the food really quickly, and then they can go ahead and execute those orders. Then we have manual orders. If orders are input through the backend manually for customers, we put alerts on, basically letting your dispatchers know that there is a manual order that was input. So if you need to double check it, you can. Then we have pause portal orders. Basically, if you're receiving orders from other sources that are getting injected into our system, they will be paused so they can be reviewed before they get put further into the placing pipeline. Then we have pause all orders. In this, there is really no specific use case for this one for most market, unless you have a very specialized dispatching team. We suggest you don't pause, but you can before auto dispatch starts doing its thing. We have quick reduction. We're not going to cover this one because we highly suggest you leave this one out because of the improvements that we made in the last couple of months to auto dispatch, that it will handle most of these most of this data on its own. So we're not going to cover this one. Then we have due early delay, also just a safety net that we highly suggest you leave at 3 minutes. Now we have low driver distance override and low driver order ratio override. Basically means when checked in, drivers equals to this or less, we remove distance disqualifiers. Basically, this is for very specific suitcases and markets that don't have a lot of drivers and that don't utilize third-party drivers. So we always assume that you have a healthy amount of drivers in your market to where you can handle your order volume. Then we have activate spread the love. This is basically a feature that it's going to work in its own parameters, and it's going to say that if we have 3 or 4 or 5 drivers, AutoDispatch is going to try to give each driver one order first before any driver hits 2 orders. But there are some limitations to that. Obviously, we have spread the love works if orders/drivers is less than 2. This basically means that we suggest that you keep this number between 1.1 and 2. Ideally, when you put it to 1.1, which means that if every driver has if 4 out of 5 drivers have 1 order, the 5th driver will get this order, right? And then it is active up until you hit the 2 order per driver ratio. If it's anything over 2 orders per driver ratio, that means that you're busy, and AutoDispatch is going to focus more on efficiency, and it's going to turn off spread the love, meaning that if you get 3 orders per driver, you want to get those drivers out, and you don't want to worry as much about keeping every single driver happy, if that makes sense. Then we have the maximum distance for spread the love. This basically means that it's going to look for drivers in the 5-mile radius. If it's anything out of that, it's not going to worry about spread the love. So if there's drivers 1 through 4 that had 1 order each, and the 5th driver is like 7 miles out, it's not going to worry about that. It's just going to get an efficient order out. Then we also have the the quick find. I wouldn't touch this because, again, this is something that we improved upon, and we highly suggest you don't activate this. It's very niche suitcases that can utilize this. Then we have no bundles. We spread the love. This is a choice where you make that says, do you want to be more efficient, or do you want to be more fair? So basically, by default, we disable this. So this is a toggle for disallowing the use of bundles in situations where spread the love would be active. So essentially, if this is not active, how we want to have it is basically going to say that if it makes sense for a bundle to be dispatched, meaning 2 or more orders from one restaurant, you're going to send just 1 driver there, and they can execute those 2 or 3 orders. But if you activate this, the AutoDispatch might say, hey, there is 2 orders at the same restaurant. We can have 1 driver deliver it, but we have spread the love, which means everybody gets an order. So we're going to send 2 drivers for the 2 orders at the same restaurant. Then we have the future order send buffer. This is just a safety net again. Basically, this is a buffer for delaying the send to restaurant time, meaning when the AutoDispatch sends the orders to the restaurant for future orders. And this is just a safety net because of catering orders mostly. So most of the time, if somebody places a future order, for example, if they place it like 3 or 4 days ahead for an order that's $400, that's going to take a lot more time than usual for a restaurant to prepare it. And usually if you want to add like 10 more minutes or whatever it is for that restaurant that you think they'll need, this is a good little safety net to have. We suggest you leave it at 10, but if you want to be extra safe, you can put like 15 or 20 minutes. Then we also have prioritized driver limit. This is the distance limit a prioritized driver must be within for selection. So if you go to your driver section right here, you will be able to set your prioritized driver that will always rank higher than the other drivers that are not prioritized. And what this means is that AutoDispatch will pick these drivers more often than the other drivers. And this means that up to 10 miles, if the prioritized driver is 10 miles out, it's going to be picked more often than the other drivers. If it's over 10 miles, then AutoDispatch is not going to consider it. Then we also have catering threshold. In this case, it's 150. This means that AutoDispatch is going to say that if an order is over $150, it's going to consider it a catering order. And if a driver is blocked from taking catering orders, they will not be assigned this order. Then we have send order instructions. This is a good way to keep your drivers in the loop, because what this does, it basically sends a text message to the driver that says, hey, we sent you a bundle, go pick up this order first, then this one, then deliver it this first, and then deliver that second, right? We always highly suggest you leave this on. The only way where you might not want to do this is if you have the slow release non-bundled on, and this basically means that it shows it basically slows down non-bundled doubles, meaning orders that are 2 or more, by not sending the next order until the previous is marked arrived. So you know, the auto bundler auto dispatch is going to say, hey, go pick up this order first, then pick up this order, then deliver these, right? So if you put this on, it will basically it's not going to send the next one until the previous one is marked arrived. Then we have max orders slash driver ratio. This is basically how many orders can a driver have that are in arrived or lower status. So you have new status, you have placing status, place status, and arrived status before you get to en route to customer, right? So if an order is an in the en route status, that's going to not be counted for max orders per driver ratio, and this means that if a driver has an order en route, they can get another order assigned to them. If this is set to 2, they can get 2 more orders assigned to them while they're delivering the third order or the first order that they received. We suggest you leave this at 1, just so that way you can kind of keep it efficient, and it will get the orders will be sent out kind of in a cascading effect where it makes sense for bigger markets, but in some areas it might make more sense for your drivers to pick up more orders, but that is completely up to you. But then again, we highly suggest you contact somebody from our team before you change these settings. Then we have presend mode. I'm not gonna cover a lot in terms of this one. Presend mode basically says that, hey, this restaurant needs this much time to prepare food. Let's say it's 30 minutes. The driver can be there in 15 minutes. So before we send it to the driver, we're going to send it to the restaurant first so they can start preparing the food, because we know we can get a driver in 15 minutes there. So basically that's all it is, because we're trying to equalize the time of the driver arriving to the restaurant and the food being ready, right? We had previous versions of this, and there are just safety nets that we created for presend mode, and I would suggest you don't change that again. Then we have average drive time inflation. This is how many minutes you want to add on average for presend mode version 3. So if we say 10 minutes and then the system calculates that the driver needs 15 minutes, you will artificially inflate that number by 10. So it will say 25 minutes for the driver to arrive, in case you operate in a market that has very busy roads, or it's a tourist spot that gets very crowded in the summer, or whatever it is. Then we have third-party driver usage. As you know or may not know, we have third-party drivers, and you can utilize them to execute your orders. This will allow AutoDispatch to utilize those drivers or not, and we have 3 options here. We can decide not to utilize third-party drivers. We can use them as primary drivers, or we can use them as backup drivers. We always highly suggest you utilize them always as backup drivers once you talk to somebody and understand what the costs are, because executing these orders will be a little bit higher because you're utilizing a third-party service to do it for you. So by default, we don't force you to do this, but you can activate it and use third-party drivers as backup drivers. Then we have a preferred provider. You can either use DoorDash or Uber Eats, and then we have a third-party average delivery time threshold. This means that if we are offering, let's say, delivery in 60 minutes, right, or before, if this quota time starts reaching over 60 minutes, that's when AutoDispatch is allowed to say, hey, we will send a third-party driver for this order, right? But anything below that, if you can execute the order, if you can execute the delivery in less than 60 minutes, it's not going to do anything. And basically, you just move this number around if you want to have a safety net. Now we have automatic buffering. And this one is going to be a pretty simple one. Basically, you have tiers from 0 to 3, and you can put a number. Ideally, you don't want to put whole numbers. You want to put 2.1, 3.1, 4.1, 5.1, because what this does, it says how many orders per driver are there before we ask for help from other drivers, right, that are not online. And basically what this does is in tier 0, if the order to driver ratio equals 2.1, so that means if there's more than 2 orders per driver, that means that you will need some help in the market, and you can add more time here, meaning this will increase the quota time to the customers on your customer facing website, how long it will take for those orders to be executed, and you can send a message to those drivers that says, hey, we have orders, log in to get an order, basically. Now in tier 1, we will go up to 2.5. This means that if there is more than 2.5 orders per driver, we will add 5 minutes to quota times, and we will add a $1.50 incentive to drivers that log in, right, for those orders. Tier 2, it will be over 3.1 orders per driver, and tier 2 will be over 3.1 orders per driver, and then tier 3 is going to be over 4.1 orders per driver, and we will be adding 30 minutes to the quota times because that seems realistic. If you have 5 orders per your driver in the market, that means you're very busy and you will definitely need more time to execute these orders, and that search pay will probably go up. Now if you don't want to give an incentive to the drivers, you can leave this number at 0 and it will still send a message. It's just not going to incentivize them with extra earnings for orders. So those are our AutoDispatch settings. If you have any questions, please let us know. If you have a Slack channel, or email one of our team members, and we will try to get this sorted out for you. Once again, don't change anything on your own. We highly suggest you leave the values that we already have in here. But if you want to change something, Slack, email, or join one of our bi-weekly calls where you can ask one of our experts about the software. All right. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a great day. Bye.